And we are now recording. And I say good morning to everybody. Welcome. So last week we finished the book of Genesis. And this week we are beginning the book of Exodus. And the parsha this week is Shemot. And a brief outline, because as with so many of these sections of the Torah, it is jam-packed. So in this parsha, the Israelites become very numerous in Egypt, and Pharaoh decrees that we should be killing the firstborn Israelite males. And there are two brave named midwives who defy Pharaoh. Moses is birthed, and we have his rescue by women and his being raised by women. And then he has a little trouble with the law, and he runs off to Midian, where he rescues Ruel's daughters and ends up marrying one of them, Zipporah, and settles in Midian and becomes a shepherd. Then we have the whole scene of the burning bush and his negotiating with God because he does not want to do what God is telling him he must do. And he finally agrees and returns to Egypt, convinces the Israelites that indeed God is on their side, but does not have so much good luck with Pharaoh. So that's the parsha. There were two primary themes that jumped out at me that on the surface might not seem to be connected, but they're very much connected for me. So the one theme is the theme of civil disobedience or social justice work. And the other theme is the incident at the burning bush. So I want to talk about both of these themes and how they connect in my mind. So I'm going to start with the civil disobedience. There are 5 critical women who each defies the norms of the time and follow their personal moral compass. The midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, defied Pharaoh's order to kill all the male Hebrew children, and they could have been killed themselves. And then they manipulated Pharaoh, so they totally got away with what they did. We have Yocheved, Moses' mother, who gave birth to him and did what she could to save him and keep him alive, and then later becomes his nourisher and nurturer. We have Pharaoh's daughter, who defied her father by rescuing this Hebrew child. And I just have to say, I wonder what that dinner table conversation was like. Dad, guess what I saw at the river today? Just like mind-boggling. So she was pretty brave. And we have Moses' sister, Miriam, and she hid and watched as he was rescued, and then kind of summoned up her strength and spoke up to Pharaoh's daughter and arranged, if you will, that her mother, Moses' mother, be Moses' wet nurse. And that set the stage for Moses to actually spend the first few years of his life living with his mother and in his birth family. So in this very short section, it's one chapter, the first chapter of the Parsha, we have 4 women who are named and another who is not, the Pharaoh's daughter, who all played an enormously important role in our history. These women were brave and strong-willed. They were committed to doing the right thing, even when that meant defying the very powerful and I'm sure really intimidating Pharaoh. Having a strong moral compass and a strong sense of right and wrong and living in accordance with one's belief takes courage. These 5 women displayed courage. They were clear about their sense of what was right and behaved in alignment with those beliefs. Later, in the very next chapter, chapter 2, Moses, in quick succession, has 3 encounters when he also displays conviction about his beliefs. He attacks an Egyptian overseer. Excuse me. He was out and about and he saw a Hebrew being brutalized by the overseer. Moses seems to really identify with the plight of the Hebrew and may have, in my opinion, clearly did, act really impulsively. However, he also really experienced compassion and empathy. And I'm reminded of a story about the Buddha. So the Buddha was raised in a very opulent palace, and he was confined to the palace grounds because they did not want him to be disturbed by the poverty and suffering he would see in society. Parallel to Moses here, he's raised in this very opulent palace of the Pharaoh. And then the Buddha sneaks out and sees the suffering in the world, and it changes his life. And he goes out and becomes the Buddha, right? Moses also goes out from the palace and sees the suffering that's going on, and it changes his life. So I just thought that was an interesting parallel that came to me. So shortly after this experience with the overseer, Moses breaks up a fight between 2 Hebrews and ends up fleeing because he knows his life is in danger. And he arrives in Midian and he sees some shepherds harassing some women who turn out to be Reuel's daughters at a well, and he intervenes. And that sets the stage for Moses's life in Midian and his marriage to Zipporah and his becoming a shepherd. So we have these examples of people defying the norms of the day and behaving in ways that are potentially really dangerous for them. Clearly, these are acts of moral courage and civil disobedience. So now we transition to the story of the burning bush. Moses has seen this bush before. He is a shepherd in this area. He tends his flocks in this area. This isn't the first time he walked past this bush. But this particular day was different. He stopped and he noticed. He saw what he hadn't seen before. Stopping and noticing is the opposite of sleepwalking through life. It's what we all need to do. The heroes of this parsha stopped and noticed an injustice. They then decided on actions they were willing to take. When we don't stop and pay attention, we simply accept whatever is presented to us. We act out of habit, we engage in non-thinking, or groupthink. When we stop and notice, then we engage all of our senses and we can notice injustices around us. We can also notice the beauty around us. It's not just, seeing the bad. We then need to use our heart and our mind to discern if we can intervene when we see an injustice, and if so, how. And that may be different for each of us, but the process is absolutely the same. We need to engage our loving nature alongside our realistic judgment or discernment to figure out what the right action might be for us in any given circumstance. So stopping and noticing is the first step. Discerning our personal role is the next step. Sitting quietly can inform us when and how to take action and can also give us the courage to do so. So today, as we sit in meditation, let us, like Moses at the burning bush, be fully present to the moment and able to say, Hineni, here I am. You may want to use Hineni as a mantra, repeating the words silently with each breath, or you may want to focus on bodily sensations or sounds, whatever is best for you. Notice what comes up, and without judgment, pay attention. The task is simply to notice. So let's take our relaxed yet alert position. And I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. And we'll take a couple of nice, deep cleansing breaths. Inhaling as fully as is comfortable for you. Holding. And exhaling slowly and completely. Again, inhaling and exhaling. And one more time at your own pace. And we'll sit in silence now for about 8 minutes. As you are coming back to the room, I have two poems that I'm looking forward to reading to you, to sharing with you. The first one is called Deliverance, Pua Explains, and it's by Bonnie Lyons. I would like to tell you I acted out of deep faith, or that God sent me a dream to prophesy this helpless baby would grow up to deliver us all out of Egypt. But I can't. Year after year, Shifra and I struggled to help mothers push newborns out of their bodies and into the world. Hour after hour, we used our secret knowledge of our sacred calling, gentle words of encouragement, our own powerful hands. Oh, the joy and triumph when a wet head finally crosses over, the transport in every mother's eyes, pain behind her now. Besides, Jochebed was my neighbor. Could I kill her son? Hebrew cries were camel grunts to Pharaoh's ears. So when we told him our women delivered their babies before we midwives could arrive, that Hebrew women, unlike Egyptian women, poured babies from their bodies like wine from a jug, that stubborn, distrustful, arrogant man naturally believed us. And this poem is called From Miriam, and it's by Marcia Pravder Merkin. I hid by the river, a young lioness crouching, ready to jump, keeping myself still. And then she came, the princess dressed in her golden clothing. That day changed my life and the life of the princess. I was no longer simply Moses' sister, and she was no longer simply Pharaoh's daughter. We were God's daughters, an army of resistors with our weapons of love and faith. So before we enter into our discussion, this is our first time together in 2021. And last week we talked about blessings. So I just wanted to share a blessing for all of us as we enter this new year. May we do so with an ability to be fully present and discern our own path. May we have the courage of our convictions and the wisdom to refrain from overextending ourselves while still contributing to the healing of our world. Amen. And I am now turning off the recording.